to the Recovery Daily Podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Abbasi. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic and stroke survivor. And today's the big day. I'm going to talk about spoon theory. So spoon theory is something that I just ran across, and it's kind of funny how I ran across it yesterday. You know how I record my episode and then I get help from ChatGPT in order to write a description of the episode for social media. So the way I do it is, and this is in order to manage my spoons, and I'll give you a thorough explanation of my interpretation of spoon theory. But what I have found over the past couple years is I can use ChatGPT in order to not use up as many spoons. So I'll ask ChatGPT to summarize the episode, and then I'll go into what ChatGPT gives me and I personalize it. So I fully edit it. What you see on social media and in the description is me. It takes the script from the social or from the episode and summarizes what I said. But a lot of times it'll use words that I wouldn't normally use, even though I tell it, don't use any words that I don't use in my script. So I've, over the past couple of years, really honed in on what words to say to ask ChatGPT to do work for me. And then I go in and edit it. So when I do that, I ask ChatGPT to provide me with relevant and popular hashtags for the social media posts. And one of the hashtags it gave me yesterday was hashtag spoon theory. And I was like, what is spoon theory? I've never heard of this. So I looked it up and voila, we have an episode on spoon theory. So I'm going to provide you with a description of my interpretation of spoon theory. So my understanding of spoon theory, what its role is, and I think most importantly, being able to communicate what it's like to live with chronic illness or chronic pain and how to manage it. And what I'm hoping is not only are we going to educate ourselves here today, but I'm also going to, I think, have a greater understanding of my own managing my own chronic pain and managing my own life day to day decisions that I'm making in order to, like I mentioned yesterday, what fills my cup and what drains my cup. And this is really, I think, goes in parallel with that, what I talked about yesterday. So, living with a chronic illness is not only difficult in its own right, but how to explain that to our loved ones is really challenging. And what I have found is a lot of times when I talk to my family and my friends, mostly my family, they ask me very specific questions about what it feels like. Like, it's not just because my family loves me and they're like, so how are you feeling today? So we start with that. And I'm like, oh, well, I haven't felt good since the Super Bowl, but then I got the flu. So that forced me to, and this is really important for a little bit of what I learned about myself over the past month. I got the flu, and that made me lay in bed for a week and listen to books. So I wasn't online. I didn't even do my podcast for a week, which is the longest I've ever gone without doing my podcast. But I was just too sick to do it. And because I was forced to rest for that long, my head was feeling pretty good. Yes, I still had the headache. It's always there. No matter what I do, I always have a headache. But it was to the point where it was just kind of whispering to me in the background. My headache was. So it showed me like how much of what I do is draining my cup. And what I'm trying to do is do more stuff that fills my cup than drains it. And that's like doing things that I can do that don't hurt my head, is what I mean by that. So spoon theory is another analogy for how to explain energy expenditure in individuals with chronic illnesses. So this is my interpretation. I almost feel like we need a drum roll here. I'll see if I can find a sound bite for a drum roll. Okay, so each spoon symbolizes a unit of energy that is available for daily tasks. And I'm going to give you an example of my daily life and tasks and stuff to have it kind of drive home this whole concept. But so each spoon symbolizes a unit of energy that's available for daily tasks. And this spoon theory was developed by a woman named Christine Miserandino. And I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but she lived or lives with lupus. I probably should have seen if she has expired or not. I'm not sure. But she lived or lives with lupus. And she was sitting at the dinner table with her family or friends or something. And she was explaining what it was like to live with lupus and all that she had in front of her that would help her explain were spoons. So what she did was she got all the spoons together and allocated spoons to managing daily activities and then started talking about like the importance of prioritizing tasks in order to recognize your own personal energy limits. She developed from that strategies for conserving energy, such as incorporating like rest periods when going about her day, and then also possibly delegating tasks. When my daughter was here, I asked her to do something for me. It wasn't because I couldn't do it. It was because I only have a certain number of spoons that I can use in a day, and depending on the day. And I knew that if I did that task, it would expend a lot more energy for me than it would if I got help. So it's also, this is a shout out for getting help, which is actually what one of my meetings was about this morning, was reaching out for help. So there are benefits to the use of spoon theory. And of course, there are also complaints about using spoon theory. Personally, I think it's stupid to have a complaint about using spoon theory. It's like one of the complaints is like spoon theory assumes that if you don't use all of your spoons in one day, then those spoons are left over for the next day. And that's not true with chronic pain. Okay, let's just settle down, everybody. Okay. It's just a way to explain. I mean, for me, it's a way to explain what it feels like and communicate that to the people around me and to enhance my own self-awareness regarding like my own personal energy reserves. So I can more easily communicate with others what my energy limits are, what my needs are when I need help, and also pace myself to prevent overexertion and having subsequent fatigue. So, examples like walking my dog, I'm going to give you big examples, but one that's striking me right now is like, you all know that I've been wanting to walk my dog 2 miles. And I did that like before I had the flu a couple months ago. I walked Autumn 2 days in a row, I think. I walked her 2 miles and I could barely make it back to my house. And by what I mean by barely make it back, that doesn't mean I was crawling on the ground back or riding her back. It means that I had used up all of my spoons and I had nothing in reserve. So by the time I got back here, and I mentioned this yesterday, I didn't have what I needed in order to make dinner, for example. So I didn't pace myself. And spoon theory is another way of implementing a pacing technique to balance activity and rest. Another thing that comes to mind when, and this is a big one for me, is using digital devices. This has been a giganto struggle for me because in order to do my podcast, I need to record it on a digital device. But I have a hard time looking at digital devices or I'm kind of okay if the screen's not moving. But as soon as stuff starts moving on it or I scroll or something like that, I can feel it in my head. When something moves in front of me, I can feel it in my head. It's the weirdest thing. But my point that I wanted to bring up is this constant battle that I've had with whether to use voiceover or not on my phone and on my computer. And there are times that, like, when my head really, really hurts, but yet I want to make sure I get my texts from my family or something like that, I'll turn on voiceover and I can just communicate using audio communication and dictation. And the reason why I do that, as it applies to spoon theory, is that I'm reserving my spoons. I have less spoons those days that I have that increased pain. So I'm using assistive technology in order to reserve my spoons, conserve my energy, and but still communicate, but still fill my cup a little bit, right? So that's why I think it it really runs parallel with the idea of filling and draining my cup because they're two different things. Using spoons is energy, is units of energy. My cup is, for me, emotional and spiritual balance or wellness is maybe the better word to use. Um, so I am trying to juggle all of this stuff. And it's not easy. I think that everybody, whether you've had a stroke or not, or whether you're in recovery from alcoholism, or you have a vestibular disorder, or whatever it is, a chronic migraine, whatever it is that you deal with, or you deal with nothing. You're just managing the stress of your own life, work and everything. We all have spoons that we start our day with, the number of spoons we start our day with, and we all have a cup that we are filling and draining. So you've got your physical spoons and your emotional and spiritual cup. And all of this has to be managed. It's all about being a human being, and it's hard to be a human being. It's not simple, it's not easy. All of it is very complicated to be a human being. And I don't think that we give ourselves enough credit for everything that we're balancing in order to be physically, emotionally, and spiritually fit. And that's what all of this um, is, I think, just a technique for managing daily routines, managing energy levels, um, being able to communicate, whether you're in recovery or not, the challenges that you face in your life, whether it's physical stress, emotional stress, um, spiritual stress, um, and then what successes you have that you've got physical progress and recovery, but maybe you're draining your emotional and spiritual cup a little bit, or vice versa. You know, you're using a lot of spoons, but you're filling your emotional and spiritual cup a lot. Um, it's really fascinating to me, this realization that I had yesterday, and that's why I wanted to talk about it. So, what I want to do first, before I talk about an example of how I spend my day, how my spoon theory works in my life, I wanted to encourage you to reflect on your own energy management strategies. So, physical energy management strategies, and that is your spoons. And also reflect on your emotional and spiritual cup and filling and draining that cup on a daily basis. Um, so I wanted to give you an example of my daily energy management, and this is a work in progress. Like, I'm not talking about it because I'm a professional spoonie, and yes, that's what it's called. You are a spoonie if you have a chronic illness or chronic pain that you I don't know, manage with the spoon theory. You're called a spoonie. So welcome all spoonies. And so I wanted to talk about what my life is like as a spoonie. So as we know, chronic vestibular systems are leave me with like this constant hangover. So dizziness, I have head pain, I have visual sensitivity, to put it lightly, and I deal with a lot of fatigue. And I think I deal with more fatigue than I'm willing to admit a lot of times. And I think that's why I'll push myself to walk 2 miles with my dog, and then I use up all of my spoons before I even get back to the house. So, okay, so spoon theory as it applies to my life, each day I begin with a certain number of spoons, but it's an unpredictable number of spoons. I may feel that I'm already limited on energy upon awakening. And that is the reality of living with chronic pain, like, or chronic illness. You don't know what tomorrow brings. You don't know when you wake up in the morning how many spoons you have. But spoon theory might allow you to guesstimate how many spoons you have, and then you can plan out your day according to how many spoons you feel like you have. How much energy, physical energy is what spoons are, a unit of physical energy. I feel very saliva-y today, so sorry if that's gross. I feel like I'm about to drool. Um, Spoon theory offers like a visual and intentional way to manage our day-to-day life. Okay, so waking up in the morning, estimating my daily spoon budget. If I am feeling pretty good, which means I'm waking up with a headache, but I feel positive. And honestly, that sounds like I'm adding that emotional and spirituality into how I feel, but it all matters that again, how full my cup is works in tandem with how many spoons I have, because I may have a low symptom day. So I have like 12 spoons that I wake up with. But if I'm feeling emotionally and spiritually unfit, like my cup is drained, then I'm gonna use my spoons up faster. I just am. Um, so I hope that this makes sense as we go through it. So when I wake up on a day that I have a heavy hangover feeling, and again, I'm not talking about drinking. I don't drink anymore. I'm talking about symptom level. So if I have a flare-up day, as you would call it, where I'm feeling dizzy, my eyes hurt, like the back of my eyes hurt, or I'm feeling like I can't visually focus on things like I feel right now, a flare up, I may wake up with half as many spoons, with 6 spoons, let's say. So it's important to wake up. And as much as Autumn is like scratching on my arm and Boris is crawling all over me and licking my face clean, I need to spend a hot second and think about how many spoons do I have this morning? Am I waking up with 12 spoons or am I waking up with 6 spoons? Or is it somewhere in the middle? Um, and I really, I think subconsciously do that before I even put my feet on the ground. I really analyze how I feel before I even roll out of bed. Um, so so that moment can vary. Um, and it's, I think, more intentional early on, but I think when I've been waking up all of these mornings for a few years now, and it's just automatic that I think, I've told you guys that I think a lot of times when I wake up, well, every day when I wake up, I think, oh yeah, I had a stroke. Oh yeah, I'm an alcoholic. It used to be, oh yeah, I'm an alcoholic. And now it's, oh yeah, I had an, a stroke, and oh yeah, I have a chronic headache. And I need to manage my day appropriately. It kind of drains my cup a little bit, if I'm being honest. When I wake up and I do that, it's a practice of acceptance, and it's necessary, but sometimes that is a little bit of a downer. And I think that's why I wanted to mention that I can figure out how many spoons I have in the morning, but I also need to, I guess just have respect for how full my cup is. So choosing how to spend my spoons. So we can break down the number of spoons we have according to like what are my essential tasks in the day, what are non-negotiables. And some of those, an example would be eating breakfast. And that seems like such a low level, energy level expenditure, but even eating breakfast can spend a spoon. Um, Everything I do, that's something that I need to accept. Everything I do expends a spoon, uses a spoon. Um, if I feel like I'm starting my day with 12 spoons and my cup feels full, my emotional and spiritual cup feels full, I might make breakfast. I might not just fill a cereal bowl. I might throw a pan on the stove or get out my what's it called? Oh, my stuffler. For those of you who watch me on social media, my stuffler device and make a stuffed waffle. It depends on how many spoons I have. So these are non-negotiable items, breakfast, but I can add more spoons that I want to expend if I have spoons to spend. Okay. So other non-negotiables might be or are showering, getting dressed, walking my dogs. Those are non-negotiables. I have to walk them, and that's a spoon that I spend. I spend at least 4 spoons a day just walking my dogs, and if I have enough spoons, then I will walk them further. Okay. If I don't have a lot of spoons, if I only woke up with 6 spoons, okay, that's a realization of how much energy just non-negotiable tasks expend. If you have a full-time job and you wake up with 6 spoons, um, think about that. Think about how difficult your day is going to be if you don't manage your spoons. Um, if you have a full-time job and you have non-negotiable tasks like eating breakfast, taking a shower, going to work. I can't imagine waking up with 6 spoons and having a day ahead of me that is telling me you only have 6 spoons and you're going to use 8 of them. You know, you don't have 8. So what are you going to do? How are you going to find a way to manage your day, knowing that you have less energy than you need for the day? And I would imagine that that entails working with your direct manager who probably knows, hopefully knows that you have a chronic illness. In that situation, hopefully they would be flexible enough to work with you. But that would be a great example of how you have the ability to communicate such a situation to somebody and say, look, I know we're supposed to go to the mall today, but I woke up with only 6 spoons. And I know that after in my day, I already need 4 spoons in order to walk my dog. That leaves me with 2 spoons. I don't have enough spoons to go to the mall today, you know? So it's cool. It's cool that it's not cool that you only have 6 spoons and you can't go to the mall. It's cool that this gives an opportunity for communicating how it works, how that energy consuming process works in the life of somebody who has a chronic illness or chronic pain. Um, so we've got the non-negotiables down, and let's say in this case that I've got 4 spoons that I'm going to use walking my dogs every day. I've got 1 spoon for eating breakfast, 1 spoon for eating lunch. So that's 6 spoons just taking care of myself. There are some people who that's all they can do every day. That's all they have the spoons for, is to take care of themselves. And I, in this context, can wholeheartedly like respect people who that's all you've got. Um, and that's what recovery is for. That's what full-time recovery is all about. When I first had to leave my job, that's all I had. I only had enough spoons to take care of myself. And even that seemed too much. And my husband was, I had to ask for help because I couldn't do it on my own. And I mentioned that earlier is delegating. I needed my husband to make dinner. Sorry, I have a fan that is spinning above my head and it's hurting my head. So I'm going to go like this. Um, so in the early on, I had to ask for help. I mentioned delegating earlier, which makes it sound like you're bossing around your caregiver, but that's not what I mean. Asking for help from a caregiver, family, or friends. Okay, so that's non-negotiable and how our spoons are used. Then we get to if we wake up with more, I'm going to turn the fan off. Sorry. I'm going to keep talking and I'm going to turn the fan off. Okay. Sorry. That's what it's like to watch a podcast for somebody who has a vestibular disorder. Okay. So, let's say I woke up on a 12 spoon day. So I feel like I've got enough spoons to not only take care of myself, but maybe I can fill my cup a little bit. And that's where my creative wellness and emotional wellness gets to be ignited. And when I apply spoons to stuff like this, okay, we've got my podcast. That's the big one. This fills my cup. It is a way for me to be creative. It's a way for me to connect with other people. Even though I don't see you, we are connecting in a way because I get to see that you're hitting play. I get texts from my niece, for example. Hi, Em. And I get to talk to people on social media who respond to my posts about my episodes. So all of these things are filling my cup, but my podcast is also using at least 2 or 3 spoons in a day. So the days that I don't record, it's because I woke up with 6 spoons, period. And I don't have the spoons to record because it's a lot. It's a lot for me. If you watch the video of me recording, and I hate to point this out because you'll never unsee it. I move my eyes around a lot when I'm talking. And that's why I think it's so difficult for me to do this. And it causes me to trigger my symptoms because I'm trying to look over the computer, but I'm also being guided by an outline on my computer so that I don't lose my train of thought. And that is just that I have to do that in order to not lose my train of thought. because of my cognitive deficits. And I think anybody in the world would need some sort of guide and not just shoot off the hip. Maybe Joe Rogan doesn't, but Rachel Abasi does. um, so I do my podcast. That's another 2 to 3 spoons, depending on the I don't know how much effort I'm putting into it, as bad as that sounds. Today would be, excuse me, I have burpees. Um, Today would be at least a 3 spoon day, if not a 4 spoon day, because I really wanted to walk through this and I actually like did a little research and tried to figure out how to apply spoon theory to my day. But the more energy I'm putting into it, the more spoons I'm using, I'm filling up my cup more, you know? So then the other creative and emotional wellness, the other things that fill up my cup are making jewelry or painting. Um, those are probably, I don't know, 1 or 2 spoons, really. I mean, it's pretty relaxing. I've chosen these hobbies that my goal is to only use 1 spoon. And if it uses 2 spoons, which um, I'm starting to lose my words. Crocheting uses 2 spoons in a very short period of time. And I didn't want to admit that for a long time. I would have hot flashes like every 3 minutes when I was crocheting. And it's because I was triggering my symptoms. So now I crochet for really, really short periods of time. But it's okay. I can still do it. I just have to regulate rest with using my spoons. And another thing that is something I think that fills my cup, but uses probably 2 to 3 spoons would be something like leading a support group. So yesterday I mentioned that that I was leading a creativity and vestibular recovery support group. And that I was a little nervous about it. Not a lot, but I was a little nervous because I think I didn't know what to expect, if anyone was even going to come or what. But I logged on and nobody came for about 15 minutes. But I thought, you know what? I'm not personally hurt by nobody being here because this is a great way for me to pay it forward and be of service should anybody show up. And meanwhile, I just painted. And somebody did end up showing up. And if you're listening, hi, you know you're you. And I don't use people's names, so you know who you are if you're listening, and thanks for being a new listener. But it ended up being amazing. And I sat and talked to this person for an hour, this one person. And it only used one spoon for me to sit online and then get to have a conversation with this other vestibular patient. Um, so I feel like that task used less spoons than I had anticipated and filled my cup just as much. So those are some of the creative and emotional wellness tasks that are using spoons, but also filling your cup. And then you've got another category of spoon expenditure, and that is, and it's kind of like the last one that I mentioned, but social connection. So talking to a friend, attending my support group meetings, not leading them, but attending like my AA meetings, and then responding to text messages and emails. Um, So this is something that it fills my cup um, most of the time. But most of the time, that social connection fills my cup. Um, Once in a blue moon, it's draining my cup. And you know what I'm talking about. Like, there's just sometimes that you talk to people and it drains your cup. But it really only uses one spoon whenever I'm talking to somebody on the phone, and texting can go from 1 to 3 spoons, depending on whether I'm using an assistive technology or not. And I would gauge what I can do based on how many spoons I have left over on a 12 spoon day. Wow. So that's a lot, right? So I wrote it down. Let's see. If I started off with um, this might be humorous. If I start out with 12 spoons, okay, I don't have 12 fingers, so we'll use 2 feet. I have 12 spoons. We know that 4 spoons are walking my dogs. So that leaves, I'm going to take away my feet and add 2 more fingers. So I have 8 spoons. So I'm going to, if you're not watching on video, I'm removing fingers as I name the tasks. So I have 8 spoons left. I'm going to eat my breakfast. I'm going to take a shower. I'm going to do my podcast. I'm going to paint. I'm going to text with my family. I'm going to call my dad, which I did yesterday. I have 1 spoon left out of all of those things. So I probably did too much because I only have 1 spoon left and I still have to eat dinner and be able to provide love to my husband, and be able to provide connection with my husband. I only am letting myself have 1 spoon left for my family, you know? So that's important that I need to recognize that sometimes the things that I want to do that I'm like, this is for me, I can't do all of these things. I want to paint, so I get to paint. Well, sure, you can paint and it's going to fill your cup, but are you going to have enough energy at the end of the day to, I don't know, make dinner or even sit down and eat dinner or, um, you know, whatever, sit in the living room. A lot of lately, my husband and I, after he works, we sit and listen to the news, which sounds terrible, but him and I together, like we just sit and I don't know, we listen to the news and then we'll mute it and we'll talk about it. It's kind of enjoyable to me. It's not stressing me out, which I think I'm very unusual in that way. I think it's stressing a lot of people out, and I get it. I get it. But we're not going to talk about politics here. Uh, so here's some strategies for how you can save spoons. Like if you like in my situation where I have 1 spoon left, I might be able to do something like my podcast, which usually uses 2 spoons and sometimes 3. Maybe I can do my podcast, but make it much shorter. And then I'm using 1 less spoon. And if I do that, I have 2 spoons left over at the end of the day. So using timers to prevent mental overload, taking breaks, spend a spoon, but you do the things that you love, but do them for a shorter amount of time. Or if you want to text or talk to somebody on the phone, like one thing that I could do is do my podcast with my eyes closed. or talk to my dad with my eyes closed. That makes a big difference for me. Two spoons can turn into one spoon if I just close my eyes. Um, Things like making dinner, I have to have the lighting right in the kitchen to make my dinner and use less spoons. If I have there's certain lights in the kitchen that if I turn them on, it hurts my head. And so I have to be very cognizant of what lights are on. And I can wear my glasses to use so that I have filters to prevent symptom flares and that kind of thing. Um, if I'm walking my dogs and it's sunny outside, I might use 5 spoons if I forget to put my glasses on before I leave the house. So all of this matters. And that's how we can kind of regulate the spoons or have spoon saving strategies. So on the other end of the spectrum, what about when I overspoon? When I overspend my spoons, which today I'm probably reaching the point of 4 spoons for this podcast. And what happens when I use too many spoons, and this happens all the time for me. I will use too many spoons because I'm filling my cup. I don't want to stop filling my cup. So I just keep using spoons. And what ends up happening is I start having cognitive fog. My headache starts spiking. My dizziness starts flaring up. Um, and then when I feel really physically bad, I start feeling emotionally bad. I start getting frustrated. And when I get frustrated, I may start disconnecting from my concept of my higher power. So that's spiritual impact. And it's all because I just wanted to keep filling my cup. And I was using too many spoons. Again, it happens all the time. Not every day, but almost every day, I'm trying to use too many spoons to fill up my cup. And I'm not beating myself up. I'm just acknowledging that I do that. And this spoon theory, used in tandem with filling and draining the cup, is going to help me. It really is going to help me. So if I start over spooning, um, number one, I need to practice some grace, you know, be gentle with myself and understand what I'm doing. Rachel, you are filling your cup and you're using too many spoons. You have to stop. And this is something that I've been talking to my psychiatrist about, knowing when to stop. And it's hard, but one of the ways that I do that, and I mentioned this before with you guys, I think I mentioned it yesterday, is if I was my own mother, what would I tell me to do? I would tell me to stop. So I use that a lot just because I am a mother. So I know I'm a mother of 2 kids in their 20s. So it's very easy for me to be like, you need to not do that, to them. And I try to keep my mouth shut. So, but I can be my own mother and boss me around. So that's a great way that I manage my what do I do when I'm overspooning? And then the inevitable is a nap. I have to take a nap if I go too far. Meditation for me is just laying down and not taking a nap and listening to, there's a great new meditation music that I found or that I heard in my sobriety meeting yesterday, and I'm going to share it with you real quick. I am looking at my device. I'm spending a spoon. I'm spending another spoon right now. Um, what is this guy called? Let me see. Oh, Malte Martin, Malte, last name Marten. And it's hand pan music, if you've ever heard of that before. Super awesome. So I would do something like listen to a meditation like that, and that will help me if I've overspooned. I'm not necessarily going to get any spoons back after I spend them for the day. They're gone. I'm not going to have any more spoons until I sleep for 8 hours. So when I'm done with my spoons for the day, that's it. I got to go to sleep. That's the only way I'm going to get a new set of spoons. But tomorrow I will get a new set of spoons. My spoons only get replenished when I sleep, period. That's the only way I replenish. So if I take a nap, I would definitely say that it gives me a spoon back. For sure, it gives me a spoon back. But that's how I replenish my spoons. If I'm thinking of it as a video game, when I'm sleeping, that little energy level just goes straight up. So I think the spoon theory is something that I'm going to apply. I think it really helps me um, have a little more self-compassion instead of getting frustrated or feeling like maybe a little self-criticism when when I feel like I've used up all my spoons, but I'm still filling my cup. That scenario that I know so well. The spoon theory, I think, will allow me to track my progress in my day-to-day symptom management. And I'll start understanding a little more what each like how much energy each activity really does spend. And this might build some structure to my physical healing and my emotional and spiritual feeling when we add the cup. Um, so that's what I've got. That's spoon theory. And I'm hoping that you can find some benefits to applying this to your recovery. And if you're not in recovery and you just listen because you love me, you can apply spoon theory and filling and draining your cup to your life as well. Thank you so much for listening. I've used a lot of spoons for this episode. So I'll probably have to do some meditating and some relaxing today. I have a book that I'm trying to finish listening to, Lord of the Flies. I think I told you guys that because I'm trying to check that off since I didn't read it in school. I want to check it off. And so I'll probably listen to a book today and relax. So thanks so much for listening, and I will talk to you tomorrow.